Hey everyone, before we get into this week's episode of Fan Talk, I wanted to show you a little something I got this year for Christmas. This is an NFL Advent calendar, counting down the 25 days to Christmas. Some teams are left out, but it's got a good set of teams here. Each day you open it up and out comes a little player. I think it's going to be the quarterback for each team. This one's Kyler Murray for the Arizona Cardinals. Today, the 6th, was the Denver Broncos. So you got Russell Wilson. Interesting combination there with the blue pants and white jersey. But it's just a little fun thing. My aunt got them for us, and she knows that I love the NFL. And she's a big fan of the podcast. So shout out to her. And shout out to all of you guys for watching and making this possible. Let's jump right in to Fan Talk. And here we go. We got another week of Fan Talk action for you. Your favorite podcast by your favorite fan. That's me, Kyle Brenchley, otherwise known as K Brench. Thanks for tuning in, guys. We have some great things to talk about this week. It's going to be a blast. We're going to get through this whole mess of what the College Football Playoff Committee decided on the 4 teams and all the controversy around that. We'll talk about some NBA play-in tournament, how that's going. We're down to the semifinals. And, of course, we'll talk NFL as we go along. We're in December. November is behind us. December, full steam ahead. Christmas is here. We're going to have a good time. And we are going to have a great Christmas season. So, thanks for tuning in. As always, you can find this podcast here. YouTube, Spotify, iHeartRadio. I film it. You can view the video formats on YouTube and Spotify now. So check that out. Share it with your friends. I'll be posting on my Instagram, so go check out my Instagram. I also have a sports page on there as well at KBrench. So let's waste no more time and let's jump right in. Okay, so as you may know, and if you don't know, you should really pay attention. The College Football Playoff rankings, the final selection for the top 4 teams was made this last Sunday. So 3 days ago. Today's Wednesday. And basically, if you don't know nothing about the College Football Playoff, essentially the top 4 teams are selected by a committee. I believe it's 13 members of a committee that essentially decide who are the best 4 teams, most deserving teams to get into the College Football Playoff. And you win 2 games and you're basically the national champion. It replaced the BCS. The BCS was a system where pretty much number 1 and number 2 just squared off, and the winner was the national champion of all the college football. Now they have 4 teams. Next year they're going to move to a 12-team format. But that's essentially the crash course. So, what went down, as mentioned in my last video, I talked about, there could be some hairy details, some hairy things that could potentially play out. And I was basically saying, man, I think Georgia's in, I think Michigan's in, I think Washington's in, and then I was like, that 4 seed, it's got to be Florida State if they win, maybe in Alabama and Texas. There was a lot of things that could have happened, and a lot of things that did. First off, Alabama upsets Georgia, and Alabama's the SEC champion. Texas wins. They're in. Washington wins. They're in. Michigan wins. They're in. So there's that 4 spot, that 4th seed. Who do you put in? Do you put in Florida State, who went undefeated, won their conference championship, played an SEC team, scheduled an SEC team, and beat them on a neutral field, but they did lose their starting quarterback? Or do you put in a 1-loss Alabama team that's playing really good, looks like a top 5 team in the country for sure, just beat the number 1 seed Georgia, won the SEC? Or do you throw in, Ohio State was kind of out of the mix, let's be real. It was really down to, who do you include? Do you include a 1-loss Georgia team, a 1-loss Alabama team, or an undefeated, I don't know why I'm doing this, or an undefeated Florida State team? And ultimately, the committee picked 1-loss Alabama. And there was outrage. People were blowing up because Florida State essentially did everything a team needed to do to get into the college football playoff. Now, I'll say this. The college football playoff is not perfect. Over the years, we've had some questionable picks. where they picked the 4 seed was like a Pac-12 team that won their conference, was like a one-loss Pac-12 team who won the Pac-12. Clearly wasn't up to par with like an Alabama or a Clemson. And I'm talking like 5-6 years ago. And they just got boat raced. And then also last year, TCU, Big 12 champion, they get in. They surprise Michigan. Nobody saw that coming. But then they get to Georgia and they get blown out. And if you've been listening to ESPN, you've been listening to CBS, you're going to hear a lot of people say that college football is a business, right? It's there to make money. If the NIL deals for the players don't tell you anything, I mean, coaches and look at their salaries and look at executives and look at team owners and look at the broadcasting rights. Like it's there to make money, and so they want the most. They want to put the matchups that will get the most views, right? And traditionally, a team like Alabama is gonna get views. Team like, I mean, Ohio State didn't get in, but an Ohio State would get views, and Georgia would get views. You know what I mean? Texas this year would get views. But a Florida State team that has lost their starting quarterback, that is on paper comparable to Alabama record-wise, but talent-wise, you're probably like, Alabama's probably more talent in a head-to-head matchup. Who would win? Probably Alabama. You know, that's just theoreticals. You're thinking Alabama's gonna score more. And I'm not saying that was the official decision. There was, the committee explained their reasoning, and you can go watch it. You can go find it on YouTube. But I'm just saying that there's been inconsistencies with the way they've picked the top 4 teams. Some years it's literally the 4 best teams, the teams that will be the best, that will make the most money. Some years they roll with, you know, a 1-loss conference champion over a 1-loss team that's, you know, better. A couple of years ago, they were thinking about putting a 2-loss Alabama team in over a 1-loss team, and people were going crazy about that. But at the end of the day, it's set. Alabama, the 4 seed, will play Michigan. And number 3, Texas, will play number 2, Washington. You know, the door is still very wide open. Alabama, Michigan, that's the Rose Bowl game. That will be on New Year's Day. That will be the first game. And then Washington, Texas, that's the Sugar Bowl. It's very wide open. Honestly, Alabama could beat Michigan. Texas and Washington, probably Texas. Maybe Washington. I just think the winner of the college football playoffs is going to be either Michigan or Alabama. That's just what I think. I mean, Texas did beat Alabama earlier in the year and could get, you know, a part 2 if Alabama does win and they win. But I also see Alabama bouncing back. I think Alabama is a better team than they were at the beginning of the year. We'll just have to see. We'll see how it plays out. It's obviously a lot of controversy, but they'll figure it out. Everything will be okay. Life will go on. I just want to show you, highlight some of Florida State's great moments from the year. They went 13-0. As I said, they beat number 5 LSU at the beginning of the year. Neutral site. They beat Clemson in South Carolina at Clemson. They beat a ranked Duke team. They beat Florida. They beat a ranked Louisville team. So yeah, their schedule was probably less impressive than Alabama. They're probably a lesser team, but you don't know. You just don't know. I've heard someone say it's a very objective versus subjective debate. And I think that's what the committee needs to figure out moving forward is are we going to pick the 4 best teams based on our own opinions, or are we going to follow a template that may include some criteria? A team goes undefeated. A team wins their conference championship. A team plays at least, 2 ranked teams, or whatever it is. Whatever they need to do, one or the other, or something else, they need to figure this out. Especially with a 12-team format, it's probably actually going to get harder. I would argue that it's going to get harder because 4 teams, this year it was very deep. Usually it's 5, maybe 6 teams fighting for 4 spots. This year it was 8 or 9, really. And with a 12-team format, you think, oh, it might be easier. Okay, just plug those 9 in and then pick 3 more. But when you go to 12, you're like, well, there's going to be a lot of teams thinking they're deserving. You're going to fill in the conference champions, and then you're going to have all these other teams that are undefeated or 1 loss or whatever it is that want to get in. So it'll be interesting to see. We'll talk more about the matchups of the college football playoff as it gets a little closer. Again, that's about a month away. But those are my 2 cents there on what went down and how Florida State got left out, unfortunately. Whew! There we go. Let's talk NBA just for a second. Last night, more controversy. The Los Angeles Lakers are playing the Phoenix Suns. The winner moves on to the semifinals of the in-season tournament. And there was a loose ball there at the end. Austin Reeves was kind of juggling it around. And the Lakers appeared to call timeout. And they was granted a timeout. Now, rules of basketball is your team must have possession of the ball to call timeout. You can't call timeout if the ball's flying around or rolling around or exchanging between hands. You have to have possession. And it didn't appear that Austin Reeves really had possession by the time LeBron called timeout. As far as I know, that play is not reviewable unless the refs decide it's so. But they didn't. The Lakers hit a 3, ended up winning the game. They will go on to play, I believe, the Pelicans. I know the top 4 teams are the Pelicans, the Lakers, the Indiana Pacers, and the Milwaukee Bucks. Those are the 4 teams left standing. Should be fun. Should be fun to see. I think it is Pelicans versus Lakers, and then Bucks against Pacers. They'll play that Final 4 down in Las Vegas, and then the winner will get the in-season tournament cup, first ever. It'll be kind of fun. Let's talk more about that as that gets closer as well. Now, for your favorite part of the show, we're jumping into NFL football. I could talk hockey. I doubt many of you guys care for hockey. It's early in the season. Perhaps when postseason comes around, I'll talk more about it. There have been some moves in the MLB, in Major League Baseball. I'm going to wait until more of that happens before I talk about that. So let's talk football. We're moving on to Week 14, and the playoff push for every team is really getting tight. Really getting tight, especially when the Bengals beat the Jacksonville Jaguars there on Monday night. It throws another team into the mix. So we're going to talk about the playoff picture. Let's make some picks real quick. Thursday Night Football, we're starting off with an interesting game. And interesting doesn't mean intriguing. It means, man, the people creating the schedule at the beginning of the year really thought this was going to be a better game than it's going to be. You got the 2-10 Patriots visiting the Pittsburgh Steelers. Pittsburgh 7-5. They're holding on to a playoff spot. They need every win they can get, especially in a competitive AFC. And the Patriots are probably going to get the second overall pick and move on from their abysmal quarterback room and perhaps Bill Belichick. This game is in Pittsburgh. I think it's pretty straightforward to say that Pittsburgh's going to win this game. So I will pick Pittsburgh at home, formerly known as Heinz Field. I think it's called Autzen Stadium now. No, that's the name of... that's Oregon, excuse me. Acrisure Field, I believe is what it's called. Next game, Tampa Bay at the Falcons. The Falcons are a confusing team, man. I don't think they're really that good, but they're 6-6 and they could make the playoffs. I never know when to pick against them and when to pick for them. Tampa Bay is coming to town, so I'm going to pick Tampa Bay because I think Tampa Bay is a better team. But you never know. The game's in Atlanta. We'll see. Lions at Bears. Give me the Lions. I know the Bears gave them a scare last time, but I don't think lightning strikes twice. I think the Lions roll. Now this will be a fun matchup. Colts at Bengals. Bengals, Jake Browning played very well. Probably the best he's ever played. Well, he was really good in high school and college. Best NFL game, for sure. They're at home. They're 6-6. They got a huge win off the Jacksonville Jaguars. Colts came off a thrilling win against the Titans, where they had 2 block punts. Gardner Minshew was cooking, and they're 7-5. Both teams really need a playoffs. This game probably means more for Cincinnati, especially since the Colts are still in the mix for the AFC South title since the Jaguars lost. This game is in Cincinnati. I'm going to go with the Colts. It's about 50-50 pick here. according to ESPN Pigskin Pick'em. But I'm going to go with the Indianapolis Colts. I just think they're the better team when it comes to offense, even though Jake Browning played very well. We'll see. That game is on CBS at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Or Mountain Time, excuse me. Another fun game, well, initially would be fun. Trevor Lawrence sprained his ankle. The current news is he's not going to be out for the rest of the season. He's going to miss some time, though. So it's going to be the C.J. Beathard show against the Cleveland Browns. I think the Cleveland Browns are going to roll with, I think Joe Flacco got demoted to the practice squad. We'll see what happens with the Cleveland Browns. I'm not totally sure who their quarterback is going to be, but this game is in Cleveland. Cleveland has a strong defense, but we just don't know who their quarterback's going to be. So I'm going to go with the Jaguars. It's going to be close. I wouldn't be surprised if Cleveland won. If the Jaguars couldn't get things going, but I'll go with the Jags. Saints versus Panthers. I'm going to say the Saints. I wouldn't be surprised if the Panthers kept it close, but they just have a lot of stuff to figure out, and they're almost there. They're going to give that first-round pick to the Bears unless they start figuring out how to win, but I like the Saints in this one. Texans at Jets. Give me the Texans. Texans played very well. They will face a tough Jets defense, but the Jets, they released Tim Boyle. They want Zach Wilson to start again. He's kind of reluctant. I'm sure he'll come through, but he's not happy to be there. I think Zach Wilson's going to be done at the end of this year. They pretty much need a win, a miracle, to stay in the playoff picture. They're really on the outskirts right now. So give me the Texans. Rams at Ravens. This game is in Baltimore, so I like Baltimore in this one, although the Rams are playing very well. Vikings at Raiders. I'm going to pick the Vikings to bounce back. They've had a bye week, some time to stir over a couple losses in a row. And the Raiders are just, their defense has improved. But I just don't think they're a threatening team right now. And a loss pretty much kicks them out of the playoff picture. But a win keeps them in. Seahawks at 49ers. I think the 49ers are rolling, so don't stop them now. Give me the 49ers. Bills at Chiefs. The Chiefs coming off a loss against the Green Bay Packers. I do think they'll bounce back this week. It'll be another shootout, a rematch of the 2022 AFC. Was it the divisional or was it the semifinals? Whatever it was, that game that went to overtime and it was just crazy back and forth. I think Kansas City wins this one, although I will be probably rooting for Kansas City because Buffalo is infringing on the Denver Broncos, who are up next. The Broncos, tough loss against the Houston Texans. They really had it there at the end. Russell Wilson threw an errant throw, third interception of the game. Their offense really didn't get rolling, and the defense kind of struggled. Just not a good game. They really need to pick things up against the Chargers, who, the Chargers, you never know. The Chargers can go off on offense. They have weapons like Keenan Allen, Austin Eckler, Justin Herbert. Like, they're dangerous. And their defense just shut out the Patriots, which Patriots suck, but, still a shutout. That doesn't happen every day. This game is in SoFi Stadium. It could be a tight one. Both teams need this win more than anything. I'm going to roll with my Denver Broncos. I'm going to put my faith in them and say they bounce back. Give me the Broncos. Eagles at Cowboys. I'm going to pick the Cowboys in this one. This might be my upset pick of the week. This game is in Dallas. Dallas is undefeated at home. They play very well at home. The Eagles are coming off a loss where the 49ers just were more physical than them. I think the Cowboys can be more physical. They played a tight game in Philly last time. Give me the Cowboys. And we're going to have a double header on Monday Night Football. Titans visiting the Dolphins. I think the Dolphins win this one. Unfortunate game for the Titans. They had it. But the Colts just came back and were just a better team and beat them. Dolphins, give me the Dolphins. Packers at Giants. I love my Danny DeVito, but give me the Packers in this one to take the cake. Well, there you have it. There's the picks. There's the college football playoff analysis that I have. Thank you guys so much for watching and listening to Fan Talk. Again, my name is Kyle Brenchley. Hit me up on Instagram. Hit me up on Twitter. Go check out my other videos here on YouTube or on Spotify. I'm also on iHeartRadio. I just love doing this, and I appreciate y'all's support. Have a great week, and we'll see you next week on Fan Talk.